Okay, the last question is, who won the race? So, trick question. How do you win a race? Who thinks they can tell me how you win a race? Seems like a pretty simple question, right? So, who thinks they know? Ava, how do you win a race?
How much you ran and the time.
Okay, so what about it? Say you and two friends go out to the football field and y'all go race down the football field. How do you win that race? You have to do what? And I know it seems like a very simple question. However, I think putting it in words, students always have a hard time with it. And I've actually seen students get questions like this wrong on benchmark questions, and quite a few students. That's why I have it in here. So, what do you think, Ava? You and three friends go run down the football field. How do you win the race? You have to do what? What do you think, Darian?
Maybe you have to, I don't know.
So, Darian, you and a buddy go out to the football field and you race down the football field. How do you win the race?
By being faster than the other person.
Okay, and that's the number one. It's not a wrong answer, but the number one answer. Now, so let's think about it. Have y'all heard about the story of the rabbit and the turtle? Who won the race?
Oh, you have to keep a pace.
Okay, yeah, the turtle ran the race, right? The turtle run, but the turtle was slower. So how did the turtle win the race? He did what? And you said a steady pace, and that's good. But what did the turtle really do to win that race?
He didn't stop.
Okay, so in other words, he did what?
Kept going.
Okay, and he did what? So let's look at this, all right? When we look at this thing on the screen, who won the race? Albert, Bob, or Charlie? What do you think, Darian? Who won the race?
Bob.
Bob won the race?
Oh, Charlie.
Okay. Albert got there in 12 seconds. Bob got there in 14 seconds. Charlie got there in 17 seconds.
Albert.
Albert. How did Albert win the race? How do you win a race?
Oh, by keeping a certain amount of speed so you don't slow down. So you can keep that pace like for a long amount of time.
Let's look at time.
And so you don't go.
It took Bob 12 seconds. I'm sorry, it took Albert 12 seconds. It took Bob 14 seconds. It took Charlie 17 seconds. Why did Albert win the race? He got there what?
Slower?
In the least amount of time. How do you win a race? You get there the first, right? You're the first one there. You're there in the least amount of time. So, kind of a trick question, kind of not. And many of y'all you weren't giving me wrong answers, but how do you really win a race? You get there in the least amount of time. Okay? Who got there in the least amount of time? Albert. He got there in how long? 12 seconds. Right? Bob took 14. Charlie took 17. You win a race by getting there first in the least amount of time. Okay? So who won the race? Who won the race? That would be Albert. Why? Least amount of time. And again, I'm asking this of all my classes, and students always have a hard time answering that. I think it's maybe because it's so obvious. How do you win a race? You get there the fastest in the least amount of time? Okay, so always ask yourself that, because they'll give you all types of funny looking graphs on the benchmark test, and they'll ask you a question like that. And no matter how funny it looks, you always just look for the person that got there in the least amount of time. Okay? All right, moving on. Number 2, what was the average speed of the red line? Okay, so notice, let's take a few observations. They both traveled the same distance. Okay, they both, well, who won the race? We could say the red line. Why? Because the red one got there in the least amount of time, whereas the green line took the most amount of time. Okay, oh, and I need to correct an error on here. That says velocity, and actually I meant to get a distance time, so I'm going to put meters, that M for meters. So it's a meters per second graph, okay? Oops, it actually goes back, slide 2. Okay, yeah, meters per second. Okay, we're going to take out velocity. Okay, I'm going to run out of time there, isn't I? All right, so what was the average speed of the red line? Because I'm an A student, I start off with my formula, distance divided by time. Okay, speed is equal to, what is the distance traveled? 25 meters. How long did that take? We said the red line, right? That took 2.5 seconds. Okay, what is 25 divided by 2.5? It is 10 meters per second. All right. Which line traveled the furthest? Another trick question, okay? Well, let's look at it. How far did red line travel? 25 meters. How far did green line travel? 25 meters. They both traveled what? 25 meters. So they traveled the same distance. Okay? All right. And that's it. So what you need to do is you're going to go back to Schoology. Here's the assignment. You're going to calculate the speed of runner A and of runner B. You're going to answer 2 questions about runner A and runner B. Calculate the speed of orange and purple, and then answer 2 questions. You should notice, if you're paying attention, the questions I ask are the questions I was just asking you. Okay? I went a little bit longer than I intended to, but that's what we're doing today. Go ahead and get started.